Kristen Oaks-White.
And I'm Avery Davidson. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, the only TV show bringing Louisiana farmers and consumers together each week.
Well, for a long time, Rayville has been known as the white gold capital of the South, of course referring to the cotton fields that cover that area.
To have that title takes a lot of people to supply the farmers of that region with the cotton seed they need to plant their crops. This week, Twila's Carl Wiggers introduces us to one of those men who had a lot to overcome, but with help, made it back to the field this season.
Matt Branch grew up in a family of farmers. That's why he loves his job in the same industry today. He says it's the people in agriculture that make him feel right at home.
And then I also enjoy just, watching nature at work, watching crops grow and trying to understand, what we did right, what we did wrong. And, there's always room for improvement in agriculture every year. And that's some of the things that I just really enjoy about this industry.
Riding through cotton fields like this is a totally normal day for Branch during cotton harvest. However, when Matt steps out of his truck, you learn that there's something that stands out. This titanium prosthetic leg is the result of a terrible duck hunting accident that happened just 10 months ago in Mississippi.
As we were standing around packing up our gear and everything, I'd put my gun down in the back of the four-wheeler, or Polaris Ranger is actually what it was, and I'd left a shell in the chamber. It was my fault. I completely forgot to unload it, that morning. And when we were loading up, the dog jumped up in the back of the Ranger, and it couldn't have been another second or two after he jumped in there that the gun went off. And we didn't immediately realize a gun went off. It didn't sound like a gunshot, it sounded more like a firework. And I just remember looking down and seeing a big hole in the bed of the Ranger, and that hole was directly next to my left leg. And immediately I realized what had happened, that I had been shot. I didn't know how bad it was because I didn't feel it, to start with. And I went to take a step back to get a better look, and my leg didn't move.
Branch's hunting buddies snapped into action, taking him to the highway to wait on the ambulance. He was then rushed to a hospital in Jackson, Mississippi, where doctors fought to keep him alive.
They did everything they could to save my life. Obviously, they had to take my left leg at the hip in order to do that, which was difficult to process, but I'm just glad I'm here today and able to be alive and share my story with people.
While Branch did lose his left leg, they didn't take his sense of humor.
You don't see this every day.
Driving Branch throughout his recovery was his will to compete like he did playing football, and his young son waiting for him at home.
He was probably 1.5 at the time the accident happened. I didn't want my mistake to hold him back for his life, so I wanted to make sure that I could do everything in my power to get my strength up so we could go and do things that, I had always imagined us doing.
With that why, Matt got to work recovering and learning to walk again on this new leg. After 53 days in the hospital and rehab, he came home on February 22nd. Matt was back working full-time on April 10th, less than 4 months after the accident that nearly ended his life.
That to me has been the biggest takeaway from all this, just a better understanding of what's important in this life. And, being able to act on that and really, show the people that I care about that I love them. Branch now volunteers as a certified peer visitor with the Amputee Coalition, where he helps other amputees through the difficult journey of recovery. As far as duck hunting goes, he may not be down in a pit blind anytime soon, but he does plan to be back out in the field this season enjoying his favorite hobby. And you guys, one of the cool aspects of his whole story, which we've seen kind of lived out on Southern farming. I remember when it happened, everybody just kind of were sharing his story, they were sharing the GoFundMe, and seeing the way that the ag community came together, and he was blown away by it. And he wasn't surprised by it, but he was just overwhelmed with, gratitude towards the ag community doing what farmers do. I mean, that's just, they come and they help their own, they help, anybody that can be, and it was a cool aspect of this story.
What I thought was interesting and really kind of grabbed me was it happened on December 28th. He was in a coma for 12 days, right? So that means he missed New Year's. He was out one year and woke up the next. I mean, that's just kind of significant when you think of it that way.
He was in an induced coma for 12 days. He had 13 surgeries. He got 320 units of blood
and
So he's lucky to be alive.
He's very lucky to be alive, and he fully acknowledges that. He says he's got a whole new perspective on things that are important. I mean, as I'm sure anyone would, the things that are important, the people that are important, and it's pretty interesting. And I was very very happy, and I came away from just spending the day with him with a new perspective of like, man, life is very fragile, and it's pretty interesting.
Well, you didn't talk about this in the story, I don't think, but you told me, you said, so he's a cotton seed salesman, he's a duck hunter, or he was.
He still is.
Okay, he sticks with it, and then he's one other thing.
He is also a former LSU football player. He was a 4-year
That's kind of a big
athlete.
deal.
Yeah, he's 6'6". He's a big fella, and now he's got one of the longest, probably titanium legs out there.
Wow.
Because it was amputated right at the hip. So I mean, that's a lot of titanium on his from his hip down.
But we're going to be learning a lot about that in the Louisiana Farm Life podcast,
yes.
right?
Yes, of course. I had to sit down. I'm a podcast guy.
Yeah.
So I had to sit down with him and get more details, because there's only so much you can get into a 3-minute story. So I got some really great interview with him, where he tells way more detail about the story.
And stay tuned to our podcast, because we'll talk about it all later.
We'll tell you all about it in the Twila After Show too.
All right, thank you very much, Carl Wiggers. Each year, the rice crop in Louisiana produces 2 harvests. Harvest of the second or ratoon crop is underway right now.
And the yields have been underwhelming, to say the least. As Twila's Neil Melanson tells us, after years of reduced yields and low prices in Louisiana, an average crop like this one is not good news.
This crisp fall day is perfect for this rice harvesting. As this combine is making its way through the field in Vermilion Parish, the golden rice stands in contrast to the blue skies. A nearby ditch, though, reveals a problem. The rain that we've seen this season has affected this year's rice crop. Alan McLean Jr. says those golden rice heads aren't what they could be.
So far, the yields are probably where they need to be, maybe a little lighter. It would also, any extra would also be very well needed with us.
In Crowley, Farm Bureau's rice marketing specialist Mark Tall is working on the numbers for this season. What he's seeing so far for rice in Louisiana is disappointing.
Well, it's having a major effect on our farmers. They're really going to be short financially. Without the help of assistance, it's going to be hard for these guys to make it. They are struggling as we speak.
This is the ratoon, or second crop of rice being harvested this year south of Abbeville. McLean says the first round saw lower than expected yields as well.
Between all of the weather that going through for the growing period, hurricane, couple heavy rain events, it just kind of didn't allow the rice to flower and yield like we were expecting. Everything was, 10 to 20% off, maybe not that much, maybe a little more in some areas.
Rice prices are higher than last year, but it's not enough to make up for the loss in yield farmers are already facing. McLean said he and other growers are already looking ahead to next year.
Next year out of the rice crop, it'd probably be I'm not saying an abundant crop, but maybe give us a little breathing room in the crop where we can actually see good yields, we can see a good milling product, a good product. We always want to see higher prices, but if we can produce the best product we can, just give us all a little breathing room. It's a very tough market out there for us.
In the meantime, the McLeans are just trying to keep their family farm running. Alan McLean Sr. has been in it 40 years and is hoping it'll be around for years to come. Rice farmers with significant market losses will qualify for the Price Loss Coverage Program, or PLC, under the new Farm Bill. However, the higher market prices this year means that the PLC will not offer much aid, even though those yields are down. McLean described the program as little more than a Band-Aid that might keep some farmers afloat. Guys, the real story here is when you go out to the McLean properties. Number one, it's not all their property. They're tenant farmers like many farmers in Louisiana. Right there from their fields, you can see those tall sugarcane plants growing on the fields nearby. It's not just that it's an average year for rice, it's that it's year after year of bad prices for rice, and a lot of those landowners are looking at the returns on sugar, and they're thinking, we need to make a change. And McLean said some are good, some landowners, they'll never grow any other crop other than rice on those lands, but the economics are starting to wear down. And so average, maybe even a good year might not be enough to bring them back up, and may take some of that rice out of production.
Also, I was about to say, it also depends on soil types too, right?
Well, I was going to say, I'm guessing too that when you talk about farmers doing rotations with crawfish will only bring you so far if you've got bad rice prices, right?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, the economics almost this past year made crawfish a more valuable product than rice. And I mean, it was a necessity. It is a necessity. The McLeans also do grow crawfish out there, but it's just bad times for them.
And that's what happens whenever you have outside markets really controlling the price you get. Thank you very much, Neil Melanson.
Well, Avery, do you know where some rice would be good to eat in some gumbo as this weather cools off?
I'm thinking my house.
In a school cafeteria.
Oh, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. And there's a chance Louisiana rice is already being served in schools around the state. If not, the annual Farm to School Conference in Baton Rouge could be where that valuable connection is made. Local food procurement is a big part of the event each year at the Pennington Biomedical Research Center's Conference Center. That's why you see tables like this one by Supreme Rice set up in the expo area. It's all about building connections between Louisiana food producers and school systems. Linda Danos is the Louisiana Farm Bureau Ag in the Classroom coordinator. She says this farm to school movement is great for educating teachers and students about where their food comes from.
You know, the farm to school movement is such an important movement just to make that connection to our students and their food and where it comes from, that it doesn't really come from a grocery store. There are people that are growing their food for them. And so I think farm to school helps to make that connection and getting that locally sourced food into their school cafeterias.
Louisiana Ag in the Classroom is a fantastic resource for teachers to find ways to implement agriculture into lesson plans and getting students interested in agriculture at a young age.
Well, there's also a new way the Louisiana Ag in the Classroom program is helping teachers. It's a program in conjunction with Nutrient Ag Solutions called Seed Survivor. Seed Survivor is an interactive mobile classroom that will travel to schools across the state. In fact, 2 trailers will be crossing the state from November until March. The target audience for the program are 3rd and 4th grade students. If you'd like to learn more about Seed Survivor or have it visit your school, head on over to twilatv.org, where we'll post a link to that where you can learn all about things ag in the classroom. Well, coastal erosion continues to be a problem for Louisiana, and a big rodent is partly to blame. In 2017, nutria damaged nearly 6,000 acres of Louisiana's coastline.
That's why a Louisiana company is working to reduce the nutria population. This brother and sister team are creating a market for nutria by using their meat for dog treats. Meet Cooper. Cooper has a pet human.
Come on, boy, come on.
Yes, his pet human is my partner, Kristen Oaks White. Believe it or not, they're both at the Raising Cane's dog park at Breck's Forest Park to help save Louisiana's coastline. How? By eating Marsh Dog dog treats. Hansel Harlan is the president of Marsh Dog, a company that makes dog treats out of nutria.
At that time, I had a little terrier that had some food allergies, and I was unable to feed that terrier commercial feed because of the grains that they would put in it. So I was making my own food for my dog made out of turkey meat. And it was at that time that I had read one of the articles saying that the nutria is kind of like turkey, but we don't know what to do with the nutria. So I said, wait, why don't we make dog food and dog treats out of it?
So how does Marsh Dog help Louisiana's coast? Well, this big rodent, the nutria, is an invasive species.
They'll eat the vegetation, they accelerate coastal erosion, they displace other native species, and consume food sources that other species were using to survive.
With 2 soft varieties made from nutria, brown rice, sweet potato, and cranberry, and 1 crunchy variety made with nutria and blueberry, Marsh Dog seems to be a hit with Cooper.
Oh, a little treat. Oh.
And his new friend King,
You want one? Oh, good boy.
who just can't seem to get enough nutria.
Okay.
So, you and your dog can help save the coast with something you're already doing.
Basically, they're able to spend $1 that they're already spending for a dog treat, redirect that $1 to Marsh Dog treats, get a quality treat, and contribute in a small way to the preservation of Louisiana's wonderful ecosystem.
But what happens if marsh dog is successful enough to create enough demand to rid Louisiana of the invasive nutria?
Drive us out of business, please, because if we run out of nutria, marsh dog will have been more of a success than we would have ever been by growing to be a rich and famous company.
You can find marsh dog treats at select pet stores around Baton Rouge. That said, like most things in this world, you can find them online, order them, and have them shipped right to your door. You'll find a link to Marsh Dog's website on our website, twilatv.org. And Kristen, I got to ask you, since you went out there with me, you hung out with me at the dog park, what does Cooper think of the treats now that you're home, and what does Boss think about them?
Well, I will tell you, like I told you on the story, I don't know if you included it in the story, but he liked the blueberry crunchy ones a whole lot, and Boss will eat anything. He loves all of the flavors though.
So took them all out.
Yes, I wish they were bigger though, because Boss just literally swallows them whole.
Yeah, Boss is a lot bigger than Cooper.
Yes.
So that explains it.
100-pound lab, so yeah, but he loved them. They got his seal of approval too. Well, with harvest season wrapping up, with the exception of sugarcane, that means it's another season in Louisiana. Not hurricane season, that's almost over. It's corn maze season, and there is no shortage of places to go in Louisiana to get in on the fun. From Dixie Maze Farms north of Shreveport to the maze at the Botanical Gardens at Burden in the heart of Baton Rouge.
You could also travel to St. Helena Parish to find the Cajun Country Corn Maze. This week, Twila's Jennifer Finley traveled with a Baton Rouge school group out to the country to take a stroll through Old MacDonald's farm.
My name is Old MacDonald. Have you heard of that fella? I'm him. This is Cajun Country Corn Maze. We offer an experience and a learning experience for field trips and schools. We hope we can help you connect with where food comes from. All food comes from the farm. I'm an old corn farmer, raised corn for 30 years. This is a corn plant. And in Louisiana, farmers will plant corn in the end of February, all the month of March and into April. We noticed that the young today don't have a clue where food comes from. And so we're trying to help them connect with where food comes from. Now the corn is native to the Americas. They did not have it in Europe years ago. The Indians and the Incas were the first ones to figure out corn. A lot of you eat corn for breakfast. You may not realize it. How many of you like grits for breakfast? Grits are made from corn. How many people like Doritos? Doritos are made from corn. We have animals, farm animals for them to see and touch and pet. Plus the corn maze and going through the maze and trying to figure your way through. We're at Pine Grove, we're on Highway 16. We want you to come and see us. We'll make you smile and hop around like a cricket.
That ride looks like it would be fun, but it would probably leave me feeling just a little queasy. Now, to learn more about the Cajun Country Corn Maze, head over to our website at twilatv.org. Still to come on Twila, if you know someone in ag who deserves to be recognized, we'll tell you how to make that happen.
But first, cotton harvest is almost done in Louisiana. We'll get the story from LSU. Stay with us.
Before I got active in Farm Bureau at the level that I'm at now, I often felt like I was isolated on the farm. It was just me against the world. Now, with my Farm Bureau family, I got somebody going against the world with me. I am Farm Bureau.
I now hope they're fighting today.
I hope they are. Put a Dorito on here.
I got a fish! I got a fish!
Find your place in the country and the lender who can get you there. Find Louisiana Land Bank. Financing for country homes, recreational property, farms and ranches, and agribusiness. Before you sweeten your morning joe, before the icing on the cake, before the sugar hits the shelf. It begins with a family of sugarcane farmers dedicated to growing Louisiana for more than 220 years. The Sugarcane Growers of Louisiana, making life sweeter, naturally.
Sugarcane, sweet sugarcane.
Louisiana oysters, salty, sweet, and delicious. But have you ever thought about what happens to all those oyster shells? Most of them end up in trash cans and landfills. The Coalition to Restore Coastal Louisiana is changing this with its oyster shell recycling program, and you can help by visiting these participating restaurants. It's a simple and delicious way to restore our coast. The shells will then be used to sustain and rebuild oyster reefs. Remember, once you shuck them, don't just chuck them.
Louisiana cotton farmers have harvested most of their crop. According to the latest USDA crop progress report, 88% of the crop is in. Though recent wet weather has slowed farmers down in the final stretch of harvest, it has been a decent harvest season up until now.
As Twila's Craig Gautreaux shows us, less than ideal conditions hurt cotton early, but farmers are pleasantly surprised by the yields they've seen so far.
While it's definitely not a bumper crop, Louisiana cotton yields are higher than expected. Wet growing conditions at the beginning of the season slowed the crop, but better conditions toward the end helped the crop get a needed boost, especially in North Louisiana.
Surprising to me this year, I guess from a positive standpoint, as you move up the state, leave the central part of the state and go up north, yields are a little bit better, more consistent.
Yields in the central part of the state suffered from wet conditions throughout much of the growing season. The crop struggled from the beginning and never caught up.
Wet waterlogged conditions, cloudy weather, especially when we were in the scoring stage. We lost a lot of fruiting sites at that time, and that had a big impact on what we had down on the lower part of the plant.
Louisiana saw a significant increase in acreage this year, and it appeared that cotton was on its way back. But the high input costs associated with cotton and depressed prices are likely to see cotton acres decrease next year.
As we kind of start to make plans for next year, I don't think we'll quite see that much. Number one is the price situation. We just cannot gain any momentum, getting that price of cotton up.
One bright spot this year is the quality of cotton is good, which adds a few more pennies per pound to the farmer's bottom line.
So far what we've seen, that's helped increase the price that the producer receives as well. So that's another positive. Not only getting the crop out, but a little bit bump on the fiber quality as well.
Frommie believes farmers need to produce nearly 3 bales of cotton per acre in order to be profitable, and this is difficult simply because of unpredictable weather. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gautreaux reporting.
Louisiana has 250,000 acres of cotton this year. That is well below the nearly 1 million acres grown in the state more than a decade ago.
You still have time to nominate someone for the 2020 Louisiana Agriculture Hall of Distinction. Every year, the Louisiana Radio Network, Louisiana Farm Bureau Federation, and the LSU Ag Center recognize women and men who have made an impact on Louisiana agriculture.
Last year, the selection committee inducted 4 people into the Hall of Distinction: Dr. Grady Coburn, Jack Hamilton, George LaCour, and Linda Zonbrecker. If you want someone you know to be one of the names announced March 26th of next year, visit our website at twilatv.org. We'll link you to the registration form you need to submit a nominee for the Louisiana Agriculture Hall of Distinction. Do it quickly. The deadline is November 22nd. Still to come on Twila, we have another Twila boost that will leave you all warm and fuzzy from the farm. Stay with us.
Landowners are minding the Louisiana forest for our grandchildren. A place for wildlife, recreation, lumber for homes. It's the right thing to do. Forestry, covering half our state, all of our hearts.
This is the moment I knew his future had no boundaries.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
Farming is my way of life. I chose this career, but farming chose me.
A lot of people ask you what you do, and I tell them I'm a farmer.
I'm a cattleman.
I am a fisherman.
I'm a scientist.
I'm a steward of the land.
I am a farm woman.
I am Farm Bureau.
I am Farm Bureau.
I am Farm Bureau.
I am Farm Bureau.
I'm a Farm Bureau.
I am a giant panda bear loving bamboo. I almost want to extinct, but I'm not because of you.
I am a ground squirrel, I almost was too. If it wasn't for the help of the San Diego Zoo.
How about you join us?
Save a desert tortoise.
We need your help to bring species back, so bring us back from the brink of extinction. Bring us back from the brink of extinction. Bring us back from the brink of extinction. Bring us back from the brink of extinction.
And desert tortoise.
On our show, we've shown you countless stories about farmers reaching out to help their friends, neighbors, or even total strangers during difficult times. It's a story we've told before, even in this very show, and it's one I'm sure we'll continue to tell again and again because they're great stories.
They are. And in this week's Twila Boost, we have yet another example of the agricultural community coming together to help a neighbor in need. The Minnesota millennial farmer posted a video to his Facebook page from the cab of his combine as he helped a fellow farmer finishing harvesting of his soybean crop. He shared the video with the caption, "America's farmers are not what some people think."
We had a neighbor who lost their dad here last week unexpectedly, and they've got a few hundred acres of muddy soybeans they need to get out. So another neighbor and us are out here. We've got 4 combines going. We're gonna knock it out for them right away. We got the co-op up here with trucks. We're gonna get these beans done. They don't even know we're out here. We're just getting it done for them because this is what America's farmers do for each other. This is who we are. When people talk about big, evil, greedy corporate factory farming, that's us, that's me, that's my family, that's our neighbors. This is big, evil, greedy corporate factory farming. People helping people, all right? We are still America's farm families, more proud than ever to do what we do, and that's provide the world with food, fiber, and fuel, and help each other out.
Now, so far that video has racked up more than 4 million views and 62,000 shares. To view more videos from the Minnesota millennial farmer, we posted a link to his page on our website at twilatv.org. And that's just yet another, like we talked about a few weeks ago, great example of farmers doing what farmers do.
It's going to be 4,000,001, maybe 2, maybe 3
Yes,
after this story is because folks are going to be looking it up.
That was today, and that it probably is going to rack up more at the end of the week. Well, that does it for this edition of Twila. Be sure to join us next week when we'll have the latest on hemp rules and regulations in the state, plus a closer look at how mobile classrooms are connecting children to agriculture.
Until then, you can watch all of our stories online at twilatv.org, and be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. And you can also find all of these stories if you subscribe to our YouTube page, so go over there and make sure to get those notifications.
For all of us here at Twila, thanks for joining us. We hope to see you again right here next week.